Hello, everyone. Joe Vore Podcast, JV Podcast Network. 16 Sundays in Hell. Week 18, week 1 of the postseason Super Wild Card Weekend game. This is the week of 17s. Usually 17 is a curse for us. The 17th game of the season for the Cleveland Browns. 17 seasons without a playoff appearance. 17 straight losses in the city of Pittsburgh at Heinz Field. All of that erased tonight. The Browns make their way to the playoffs. They win in Pittsburgh. And they are going to play more than 17 games this season. The Browns 48, the Steelers 37, myself, the Snowman. We are here. I just want to open up with this. What's so cool about winning this game is not obviously beating Pittsburgh is amazing. Obviously advancing in the playoffs, giving yourself a chance again next week to win another game in advance is awesome. Yep. But because of what we're dealing with COVID and the fact that Kevin Stefanski, who comes in and a guy who has filled the shoes of so many coaches that weren't able to do it, not only their fault, but other things, they weren't able to find a quarterback. Baker has filled those shoes as the quarterback. Finally, we have a coach who has come in and seems like a guy that can actually last longer than one season, which is awesome. But absolutely. I think about Joel Bitonio, a guy who was drafted in 2014, who came in. The Browns won 7 games. There was some excitement that season, but has seen the worst of the worst. The longest tenured Brown, who missed this week because of COVID, now, barring anything crazy happening, gets to play next week. And I am so incredibly happy for that reason. Joe Bitonio gets to play in the playoffs, barring anything crazy to happen. And beating Pittsburgh is pretty awesome, too. So I just want to know, now that I kind of got that out of the way. And also, too, how cool is it? What's the name of this special teams guy? Pfizer. He's the pharmaceutical guy.
Mike Pryfer.
Mike Pryfer. So he grew up a Cleveland fan. He's an Ohio kid, right? He grew up a huge Browns fan. He gets told he gets the role of being the acting head coach, and he is the head coach, the acting head coach in Pittsburgh. Yep. The Browns beat Pittsburgh. He knows all about this. His family's a fan. He's a fan, and now he's coaching, has been with the team these last few years, and he gets to do this, which is also so cool. And the Browns just so much went right tonight. So, Snowman, before we dive into the details and talk about everything, just how do you feel? What's going through your heads right now? Because this is historic. This is amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely historic. I told you at halftime,
Yep.
I ran out of juice, man. By the end of the game, that first 7-8 minutes of the first quarter, man, we had 28 points on the board. And I was losing it, so hyped.
You were like Michael Scott after he eats the whole family pot pie and then he crashes at his desk. That's what you were.
I crashed. I we got to the midway through the second quarter. I'm just sitting here still feeling all the same, but I just couldn't be up screaming and yelling. I mean, I could not have scripted a better start to a football game than the first play. I mean, it just, I mean, having 7 points on the board 12 seconds into the game is one of the, best feelings, because then you're playing with a lead the whole game.
Exactly. I mean, the way that the game started out, the first play from scrimmage, Mr. Maurice Pouncey Hernandez snaps the ball over Ben Toothlessburger's head into the end zone, gets kicked around, recovered by Carl Joseph for a touchdown. So like you said, the Browns are up 7-0 early. I tweeted, I wrote down here in my notes, I'm like, is this what the playoffs are like? This is neat. This is
cool. Yeah.
I can vibe with this. I'm with this.
I can hang. Yeah.
I can hang with this. What's up? What's up? And then, and then the first, real Steelers drive, our good friend, Mr. Stewart Jr., who he had the interception last week too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so he has another interception. Like the Browns, they got to take advantage here. And they do. They're in a 3rd and 4 situation. Baker didn't try to do anything too big all night. He kept finding Hooper. And on this play in particular, 3rd and 4, he gets the ball to Landry, a slant, and Landry does the rest. And what I'm so impressed with all these receivers, now, got to give credit to Odell too when he plays. All these guys, the receivers really do block until the end. Until the play is over. Donovan Peoples-Jones, great job blocking down the field, his guy was not in the play at all. His guy would have made a tackle, but Landry's free, gets tripped up, but he's able to dive into the end zone. So all of a sudden, it's 14-0 Cleveland, and the Browns are rolling. And now here's what, Pittsburgh comes out, they go 3-and-out. I'm like, okay, let's step on their throat here, establish the run, find the end zone. Chubb had a big run. I'll take another. He does it again. 3rd down, Baker to Higgins, convert, and then we got a Kareem Hunt touchdown run, 11 yards. They finished the job. And Conklin, you were talking about this. Conklin comes in, closes it up, makes sure Hunt finds the end zone. It's 21-0. Now, it's weird. In this season, we have seen this story twice before. Browns, Cowboys, huge leads early. What the hell is going on? And then hang on for dear life. And it happened, of course, against Tennessee as well.
Yeah.
And now this week against Pittsburgh.
I hate it. I hate playing with a lead. I would much rather, have it be a 35-17 game than go up 28-0, because only bad things can happen. Like, you're supposed to win then, right? Like, if you're up 28-0, now granted, I can't remember who it was, but I heard somebody talking about when they were playing the Indianapolis Colts, and they I can't remember what game it was, but they got up 21-0, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're up 21-0. That game should be over." You're like, "No, that's a bad man, Phillip Rivers, sitting over on the sideline, who's going to come out and put 24 straight on your ass," which is what he ended up doing, and then the Colts win. So I'm like, it's just like, it's hard to play with a huge lead like that because so early.
So I want you to come in and be Coach Snowman here. So here's my question. I know you're not a defensive guy, but how do you find a mix? Because here's the Browns situation. They have this huge lead, right?
Right.
And you would think it's like, okay, on defense, like, why would we make it so easy and play so soft on Pittsburgh? But you also have to factor in that the Browns secondary and defense is not that great to start with. And they're so thin. There's no Denzel Ward. There's no Kevin Johnson. You're playing guys back there that, were brought in or on the team. And because of COVID and injury situations, they go from being guys that are brought in that are good on special teams. And now they have to run around with Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster one-on-one. So like, what do you do in that situation? Like, do you play off that much and let Roethlisberger and those guys get into a rhythm? Because, how do you handle that? Because we've seen it 3 times this year where the Browns have played soft, and especially today, the Browns never jumped out in those 2 games as big as a lead as they got out to. They didn't go 28-0 in the first quarter. It didn't happen so much like that, like it did tonight. Literally, Pittsburgh, they were down 4 scores, but they have 3 full quarters to come back. So what, like, as a coach, what do you do there? Because there's so many variables.
Personally, their game plan coming into it was limit the big play. Because that's what's, Pittsburgh's really been struggling with. They haven't run the ball. They only ran for 53 yards tonight. So they're not going to run the ball at you at all. No. They're going to make their money throwing, 5-yard routes and then hitting a deep ball. They kept everything in front of them. They made sure nobody was running deep, which I don't think, Pittsburgh completed really any just big plays when it really mattered,
Yeah,
towards the end.
They had a few 1-minute drives, like a minute and a half drives that were kind of scary. And that's the big thing, too. It's like, okay, let them throw the ball all over the place. But if they're just going to dink and dunk 5 yards all down the field, you keep them in bounds, and they waste 5-6 minutes, they score a touchdown, whatever. But you can't give up a minute and 24 drives.
That's the problem. And we were also talking about how we'd like to see them get some pressure on them. There were no sacks, I don't think, at all for the Cleveland. But that's in part because Pittsburgh spent this entire year priding themselves on getting the ball out fast. I think the clock from snap to throw for the Steelers has been the quickest of any team in the league. So you're not going to sack anybody when they're throwing it in 2 seconds.
Well, I think they gave up the least. They showed that graphic. Was it the least amount of sacks given up in a season by a team since like the Colts in 2013 or something like that?
Yep.
It was like 14 sacks all season, something insane.
Right, which is when you throw the ball when you catch and throw, just about every single time, you're really not gonna give up a whole lot of sacks.
Right.
So
exactly.
it ended up working out really well because we got out to that 2-score lead at the beginning, and then they couldn't really. They had to try and press a little bit,
Right.
and we ended up being able to get 2 more on, and then when you're up 28-0, the goal is don't give up the big play, keep everything in front of you, tackle. Now obviously you don't want to give up 1-minute drives. You want to try and limit that as much as possible, but at the same time, you want to keep everything in front of you and funnel it up and tackle it.
All right. So to kind of fast forward to the second half here, again, in the first half, as we wrap up, we had a red wine interception, a Porter Gustin Bosa interception, which was awesome off the tip and the dive. No doubt about it that he got his hands underneath it. Unbelievable. So, Browns obviously up 28-0 at the end of the first, like we said. Pittsburgh finally gets on the board. It's 28-7. Now, this was big time. The Browns come out. They answer that right away. 9 plays, 64 yards, a minute drive of their own, a minute 10. Baker to Hooper, wide open on the touchdown. Shout out Coach Callie drawing that one up. And so 35-7, huge answer. Pittsburgh gets 3 at the end of the first half. It's 35-10, 25 points. And I'm sure, like you and the rest of the Browns fans, I'm still worried at this point.
Oh yeah. No. I don't think until that last, stop there, that when Taco picked it off,
right?
That was when I just sat back and I'm like, this game's over.
Yep.
But up until that moment, I was clenched up like this, just hoping to God we did not blow it.
Right.
But, it just ended up being very nice.
Right. And here's where I got, like I told you, we talked on the phone at halftime. Here's what I said. When they're coming out of the third quarter, they get the ball.
Yeah.
Out of halftime. I'm like, this is the biggest drive of the game. Because one, it's your current drive. And what time is it?
Right now.
It's now. So right there at that time is the most important drive because it's your current drive. But also you got to set the tone here. And I think with a touchdown, they really could have, not ended the game, but you could, you would have felt really, good up 42-10.
Yeah.
42
right, exactly.
To start the second half. That would have felt really good. Pittsburgh forces a punt, and I really hated this because the Browns got sloppy here. They did a motion, a shift or something, and they end up having a nice play, and it would have been third and manageable, second and short, whatever it would have been. But Baker snapped it, and just the communication was off. No one was set, and I could see it. I was really hoping they weren't going to throw a flag, but I knew it was coming back. No one was set. No one knew where to be on the line of scrimmage. That's what I said. I'm like, don't come out in the second half, because that's what the Browns did a little bit in that Cowboys game and more recent memories of Tennessee when they're up big.
Yeah.
They started not to play such a clean game, right? More balls were hitting the ground when they were passing, and also more penalties, just like stupid penalties on special teams, giving other teams.
You get sloppy, when you're up, like the Tennessee game. What was it, like 38-7 or 10 or something? Same with the Dallas
big
game.
Time at halftime, yeah.
It's hard to play with a really big lead, and especially in the NFL where everybody on that other team, there's 53 of the best athletes in the world, like the best football players in the world over on the other sideline. So they can score, in the blink of an eye. So, 28-0 like it was tonight that's not a death sentence. That's still a very, very, winnable game, especially when it's just in the first quarter.
Yeah. Especially today with the way they pass. I just really hated that, because I'm like, now the Browns are, 2nd and 15 instead of having a better, I just didn't want to see penalties start to trickle in and start to, send them backwards and kill momentum. So Pittsburgh gets a touchdown way too easy. They missed a 2-point conversion. It's 35-16. Then the Browns go 3 and out very quickly. No fudge, except I didn't say fudge. Christmas story.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh again. Now it's 35-23. 3 and out Cleveland. 35-23 at the end of 3. I was really nervous. 12-point game, 15 minutes left. The way that, things were, going offensively for Pittsburgh, just didn't feel good. Now here is where Mike Tomlin pretty much ended the game for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
4th and short, 4th and 1. They're in their own territory, but the way their defense was playing, getting all those 3 and outs, Cleveland wasn't really doing anything. They weren't running the ball well. You absolutely go for it here. I mean, this reminded me, now I know they won the series, but if we flash back Cleveland sports history here, 2017, American League Division Series against the Yankees. That game 2 where the Indians were down 8-1, they come all the way back to win it in extras. Lonnie Chisenhall up to bat to load the bases. He gets hit in the hand. If you look on the replay, it's very clear that the ball hit the knob of the bat. It should have been a foul ball. Joe Girardi decides not to challenge it. Fast forward, I'm pretty sure the very next batter, Francisco Lindor, hits a grand slam. All of a sudden, it's 8-7.
Yeah.
And the Indians are back right there. That famous, RIP, not, because he's not with the I words anymore. But
right.
But that very much reminded me of that. I'm like, this is a huge break. This is a huge break. And you know what? The best thing about it was, and it allowed us to breathe just for a second, because the Browns or the Steelers end up answering the first off, beautiful call on the screen, 40 yards, Chubb, touchdown. It allowed us to breathe. I felt better. But then Pittsburgh answers with a minute and 24-second drive. So all of a sudden we went from feeling good, oh, Parkey made a kick, good for him. And then it's like, oh my God, now we're back. So it goes from 42-23, which feels good. Now 42-29 doesn't feel so good. But here's where Cleveland really put it away. They come out, 10+ play drive, 6+ minutes off the clock. They only get 3 points, but it goes to a 16-point game. So Pittsburgh would have to get 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions with 4:28 to go. Obviously, plus the 2-minute warning, some timeouts, all that stuff. But you feel much, much better. 45-29. Then, of course, as we alluded to earlier, we have arrived. And you know what? I've talked a lot of crap about Taco.
You're telling me.
But, they put up his Pro Football Focus ranking before the game. He's like 12 at his position.
That's not bad.
That's super respectable. I will absolutely take that. So Taco seals the deal with that interception. Now the Browns, I was really hoping that field position after the interception, I was really hoping they were going to put up a 50 burger. I was hoping
hoping that as well. Yep.
But of course, Parkey adds 3, so it's 48-29. Baker, I thought, was really, really good tonight. 3 touchdowns. I think he was 21-34. Obviously took care of the ball. No fumbles, no interceptions. He had a really nice big time run to get a first down where he put his head down and did a nice job with his feet. And I like what the Browns did, because even with all the guys that were missing on offense, and gosh, we haven't even talked about, first off, thank God that they were able to hang on to the lead, because Jack Conklin looked like he was available in case of emergency. Thank gosh it never came to that, and he didn't have to go back into the game, so he could get as much rest as he needs, because if it's just a hamstring and it's not horrible, I assume he will play next week. But I liked what the Browns did. They even tried to go a little bit of tempo on offense there, a few plays. They got aggressive on offense, and they were more balanced. They weren't just going to come out there with 3 tight ends and run the ball. Maybe they would give you that look and they would go play action, and Landry was able to get free a few times. So I know you as an offensive guy had to appreciate that, because they got, those 3 and outs. They got a little less aggressive, and they got a little bit more aggressive, and they trusted Baker to throw the ball, and he made those big time completions, and it allowed, Chubb and Hunt to have some nice runs there at the end of the game, so they could really seal the deal and end it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very, very well-rounded game. They gave up 7,000 yards, but you can do that when you have 5 turnovers, and that is ultimately the nail in what ended up being the coffin for Pittsburgh was 5 turnovers. You don't win too many ball games doing that.
Right. Ben texted me. I'm going to pull up this text from my brother Ben, the Steelers fan. What did he say? He goes, damn, if you would have told me Ben was throwing for 500+ yards and 4 TDs, I would have liked our chances. I'm like, well, you kind of left out the 4 interceptions part. And he's like, 28-0 after the first quarter. But like you said, it's funny to say it was a well-rounded game, great team win. But you say that because of the circumstances, the guys that are missing on both sides of the ball, the guys that are missing on the sidelines as coaches. So many coaches missed today. Offensive line, obviously Stefanski, wasn't there. I have to give a tremendous credit to Alex Van Pelt, who called the game tonight. Excellent job. You never really would have guess Stefanski, wasn't on the sideline. It didn't
Right.
feel like a non-Stefanski game, which was,
Yeah.
great and really, really cool because obviously that's worked.
I think see with that, I think it really goes to show you at how Kevin calls the plays, Coach Stefanski calls the plays, but I
Right.
think it's more of a team, coaching, them coming together to figure out, hey, this is what we're gonna run, this is what we're
Yeah.
gonna do, and I think that's a really good sign that Van Pelt and even though Callahan wasn't there, but Bill Callahan and Stefanski are all kind of one like-minded guys that they know what. I saw something before the game that Van Pelt said, I'm going to call plays that are true to Kevin Stefanski, what he would do. So that's, and that's really good because it would really suck to have, Stefanski gone and then Van Pelt comes in and says, well, I'm calling my offense. This is my show tonight. We're going to go 5 wide all night. We're throwing the ball 62 times. Right. Like that would not work. And it's a very obvious thing.
And that just goes back to the offseason. I've talked about it on this podcast before. The big word that I took from the offseason was alignment. Regardless of who they were bringing in, they wanted to bring in guys that aligned, that were on the same page, right? So the guy that was really in charge of the head coaching, Mr. Jonah Hill, DePodesta, who was, Stefanski was his guy last year. Dorsey was in the building, so that's why they brought in Kitchens. So they bring in Stefanski this year. That's, Haslam entrusted DePodesta. DePodesta brings in Stefanski. There's your alignment there. The name that was tied for general manager to Kevin Stefanski was Andrew Berry. Who's the general manager? Andrew Berry. There's alignment right there. Yep. What does Kevin Stefanski and his offense do really, really well? Getting the quarterback out in the pocket, nakeds, boots, moving the pocket, things like that. What is Baker Mayfield really, really good at? Where's he most comfortable? Where's he the most efficient? All of those things. Everything works out. Stefanski likes to run the ball, set it up for play action. And you got Chunt in the backfield. The H is silent, of course.
Of course.
And we can't forget to mention them. They combined for 3 touchdowns and what you do like the Inception scene there, or the Troy Bolton scene where you're just like the walls just
my iPad is dangerously low right now, so I had to plug it in.
Oh my gosh. Okay. But yeah, so they combined for 3 touchdowns, 204 scrimmage yards. I thought Hunt ran the ball great. Chubb ran the ball great. Chubb, really nice job receiving, had some nice catches and runs tonight. He was terrific. So going back to the point we were making, it's funny to say the defense gave up all those yards and all those things, and being up, it was still a well-rounded game. Well, you know what? This is an outlier. When you're missing all these guys because of COVID and you're up 28-0 after the first quarter, it's changed a little bit, right? Context is important, and it's not crazy at all. Baker said it after the game too. This is a great all-around team win, and guys freaking stepped up. You're missing your head coach, who just led you to an 11-5 season. Joel Bitonio, Pro Football Focus, number 1 guard ranked, graded the NFL. He's gone.
And
his backup goes down, and then Conklin goes down within the game. No Denzel Ward. I mean, no Kevin Johnson. The Browns were so
next man up mentality, man.
That's right. And you know what? The Browns did it tonight. 48. What was the final? 37, 48, 37.
48, 37, I believe. And it's really scary to me. This team comes out, puts up 41 offensive points, and we don't have Bitonio. We don't have our play caller. We don't have, we don't got all our guys, man. I don't know, Jim.
Yeah.
But and hopefully next week we can get Ward and Kevin Johnson back, so fucking Javier Thomas can get the fuck out of the.
Could go back to playing just special teams.
Yeah, can go back to the freaking G League or wherever the hell we got him. He's terrible. But I'm
he's good on special teams. I watch him on punt all the time.
Yeah, well, that's all effort, and he's an effort guy. He's just not very good, which is okay. But to get to it, the Chiefs going to Arrowhead next year or next week. Road Warriors. We've talked about this is the NFL playoffs, man. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen, and you mentioned getting back to full strength. To quote the great Jeff Strickler after my freshman year when we beat Ontario down a few guys. He goes, "Yeah, just wait till we get to full strength," and everyone's like,
"Yeah, the mad scientist."
Yeah, the mad scientist comes in there with some Bunsen burners, like, "Just wait till we get to full strength." and it was epic. So yeah, Browns, man, we get to do this show. The show lives on. It goes another week.
The show goes on. I ain't leaving. I ain't fucking leaving.
I ain't leaving, baby. I love it. Browns, 16 Sundays in Hell. Joe Vore, the Snowman. We'll talk to you guys. Now, I think I saw it Sunday. Looks like 3:05 Eastern, CBS. Browns at Chiefs.
Beautiful.
So we'll talk to everyone next Sunday.